Question 1. To address the challenge of optimizing VMware Horizon 8, X infrastructure for a financial services firm operating under strict data protection and operational resilience regulations, which of the following approaches best balances performance enhancement with compliance requirements? Option A. Deploy untested third-party optimization tools that promise significant performance gains without prior security or compliance review. Option B. Bypass formal change control procedures to rapidly implement performance tuning scripts identified through informal channels. Option C. Aggressively disable non-essential logging and auditing features across the Horizon environment to reduce system overhead and improve performance metrics. Option D. Implement a comprehensive suite of Horizon optimization features, including intelligent policy management, dynamic resource allocation, and efficient image management, following a documented change management process with thorough testing and validation. Correct answer is D. Implement a comprehensive suite of Horizon optimization features, including intelligent policy management, dynamic resource allocation, and efficient image management, following a documented change management process with thorough testing and validation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in optimizing VMware Horizon 8 X infrastructure for a financial services firm. The core difficulty lies in balancing performance gains with the stringent regulatory compliance requirements inherent in the financial sector, particularly concerning data security, auditability, and service availability. The firm operates under a framework that mandates strict adherence to data protection and operational resilience standards, necessitating a methodical and compliant approach to any process optimization. The correct approach involves a phased implementation of optimization techniques, prioritizing those that demonstrably enhance resource utilization and user experience without compromising security or audit trails. This includes leveraging Horizon's built-in features for intelligent policy management, dynamic resource allocation, and efficient image management. Such an approach aligns with best professional practices by ensuring that changes are tested, validated, and documented, thereby maintaining a robust audit trail and minimizing the risk of service disruption or data breaches. Regulatory compliance is maintained by ensuring that all optimization activities are conducted within the established security and governance frameworks, with clear change management processes and impact assessments. An incorrect approach would be to implement aggressive, untested optimization techniques that might offer immediate performance benefits but introduce unforeseen risks. For instance, disabling logging or auditing features to reduce overhead would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This directly contravenes requirements for data integrity, non-repudiation, and the ability to conduct forensic investigations, which are critical in financial services. Another failure would be to bypass established change control procedures. This undermines the principle of accountability and introduces a high risk of unintended consequences, potentially leading to security vulnerabilities or service outages that violate operational resilience mandates. Furthermore, implementing optimizations without proper user impact analysis could lead to a degraded user experience, which, while not a direct regulatory breach, impacts business continuity and can indirectly affect compliance by hindering user productivity and adherence to secure practices. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes risk assessment and regulatory alignment. This involves understanding the specific compliance obligations of the industry, thoroughly evaluating the potential impact of any optimization on security, availability, and auditability, and adhering to documented change management processes. A phased, iterative approach with continuous monitoring and validation is crucial. Question 2. Process analysis reveals that financial services organization utilizing VMware Horizon 8 X is experiencing concerns regarding potential unauthorized access to sensitive client data on virtual desktops that are left unattended by users. The organization needs to implement a configuration change within Horizon 8 X to mitigate this risk, while ensuring a reasonable user experience and efficient resource utilization. Which of the following configurations best addresses this requirement? Option A. Configure both session timeouts and idle timeouts for Horizon 8 X desktop pools to automatically log out users after a specified period of inactivity. Option B. Disable all session timeout and idle timeout settings within Horizon 8 X to prevent any unexpected disconnections for users. Option C. Implement session timeouts for Horizon 8. X desktop pools but leave idle timeout settings disabled. Option D. Focus solely on enhancing network-level security measures and firewall rules for the Horizon 8 X environment without modifying desktop session configurations. The correct answer is A. Configure both session timeouts and idle timeouts for Horizon 8 X desktop pools to automatically log out users after a specified period of inactivity. Explanation: this scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure (VDI) environments, balancing user experience with resource utilization and security. The professional challenge lies in understanding the implications of different Horizon 8 X features on end-user performance and the potential for unauthorized data access or exfiltration, all within the context of the exam-specified regulatory framework, which, for 2V0-510-21, is assumed to be general IT best practices and VMware's own guidelines, as no specific jurisdiction is provided. Careful judgment is required to select a solution that optimizes these competing interests without compromising compliance or security. The correct approach, enabling session timeout and idle timeout for Horizon 8 X desktops, represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the risk of unauthorized access to sensitive data on unattended virtual desktops. By automatically logging out users after a period of inactivity, it minimizes the window of opportunity for unauthorized individuals to access company resources if a device is left unattended. This aligns with general IT security principles and data protection best practices, which are implicitly part of any professional IT role. It also contributes to efficient resource management by freeing up desktop sessions that are no longer actively being used. An incorrect approach that involves disabling all session and idle timeouts would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would directly contravene best practices for data security and access control. It creates a significant vulnerability by allowing active sessions to remain open indefinitely, even if the user has left their workstation. This increases the risk of data breaches, unauthorized modifications, or data exfiltration if the endpoint device is compromised or accessed by an unauthorized party. From a compliance perspective, depending on the specific industry and data handled, this could lead to violations of data privacy regulations and audit failures. Another incorrect approach, which is to only implement session timeouts without idle timeouts, is also professionally deficient. While session timeouts provide a baseline level of security by ensuring sessions are eventually closed, they do not address the immediate risk posed by an unattended active session. A user could step away from their desk for an extended period, leaving their virtual desktop accessible to anyone who gains physical access to their workstation. This creates a gap in security that idle timeouts are specifically designed to close. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on network security measures without addressing endpoint session management would be incomplete and professionally inadequate. While robust network security is crucial, it does not mitigate the risks associated with an authenticated user session being left vulnerable on an unattended endpoint. Relying solely on network controls ignores the direct threat of unauthorized access to an active virtual desktop session. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment. This includes identifying potential threats, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and then selecting controls that effectively mitigate those risks. In the context of Horizon 8 X, this means understanding the features available, like session and idle timeouts, and how they can be configured to meet security, compliance, and performance objectives. Professionals should always prioritize solutions that provide layered security and address the most immediate and significant risks first. Question 3. The control framework reveals that diagnostic logs generated by VMware Horizon 8 X components, such as connection servers and unified access gateways, may inadvertently capture personally identifiable information, PI, during troubleshooting sessions. The organization is subject to data privacy regulations that mandate the protection of user PII. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for effective diagnostics with regulatory compliance for handling PII in these logs? Option A. Collect comprehensive diagnostic logs without any specific PII redaction, assuming that the overall security of the network infrastructure will adequately protect the captured PII. Option B. Enable verbose logging for all Horizon components and store these logs on a separate, highly secured server, believing that the security of the storage location is sufficient to mitigate PII risks. Option C. Implement Horizon's built-in diagnostic logging features, configuring them to redact or anonymize PII before it is stored or transmitted for analysis, and ensuring that access to these logs is strictly controlled and audited. Option D. Disable all diagnostic logging for Horizon components to eliminate any risk of PII exposure, relying solely on user-reported issues for troubleshooting. The correct answer is C. Implement Horizon's built-in diagnostic logging features, configuring them to redact or anonymize PII before it is stored or transmitted for analysis, and ensuring that access to these logs is strictly controlled and audited. Explanation. The control framework reveals a critical juncture in managing sensitive user data within a VMware Horizon 8X environment. The challenge lies in balancing the organization's need for operational efficiency and troubleshooting capabilities with the stringent requirements for data privacy and security, particularly concerning personally identifiable information, PI. This scenario demands a nuanced understanding of Horizon's capabilities and the regulatory landscape governing data handling. The correct approach prioritizes data minimization and anonymization techniques when collecting diagnostic information. This aligns with the principle of privacy by design and privacy by default, which are fundamental to many data protection regulations. By redacting or anonymizing PII before it is logged or transmitted, the organization significantly reduces the risk of a data breach exposing sensitive user information. This proactive measure demonstrates a commitment to compliance and ethical data stewardship, minimizing potential legal liabilities and reputational damage. An incorrect approach would involve collecting comprehensive diagnostic logs that include unredacted PII without a clear, documented business justification or explicit user consent where required by law. This failure to implement appropriate data protection measures constitutes a direct violation of data privacy principles and potentially specific regulatory mandates. Another incorrect approach would be to disable all logging for diagnostic purposes, which, while seemingly protective of data, cripples the ability to troubleshoot effectively and maintain a secure, stable environment. This hinders operational integrity and could lead to prolonged system downtime or security vulnerabilities going unnoticed, indirectly impacting user experience and potentially leading to other compliance issues related to service availability. A third incorrect approach might be to rely solely on general security measures without specifically addressing the PII within diagnostic logs, assuming that overall network security is sufficient. This overlooks the specific risk associated with the content of the logs themselves and fails to implement targeted controls for sensitive data. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying sensitive data, understanding the regulatory requirements applicable to that data, assessing the risks associated with its collection and processing, and implementing controls that mitigate those risks to an acceptable level. In this context, it means evaluating the necessity of specific data points for diagnostics, exploring anonymization or pseudonymization techniques, and ensuring that any collection of PII is justified, documented, and compliant with relevant data protection laws. Question 4. Process analysis reveals that end users are reporting a consistent degradation in the performance of a critical business application delivered via VMware Horizon 8X. The IT operations team needs to address this issue efficiently and effectively. Which of the following approaches best represents a professional and systematic method for diagnosing and resolving the performance degradation? Option A. Initiate a comprehensive review of VMware Horizon 8X infrastructure logs and performance metrics, correlating findings with application-specific performance data and resource utilization on affected virtual desktops and connection servers to identify potential bottlenecks. Option B. Advise end users to restart their virtual desktops and report back if the issue persists, assuming the problem is transient and user-specific. Option C. Focus troubleshooting efforts exclusively on network latency between the end-user devices and the Horizon infrastructure, as network issues are frequently the cause of VDI performance problems. Option D. Immediately increase the CPU and memory allocation for all virtual desktops hosting the application, as this is a common solution for performance issues. The correct answer is A. Initiate a comprehensive review of VMware Horizon 8. X infrastructure logs and performance metrics, correlating findings with application-specific performance data, and resource utilization on affected virtual desktops and connection servers to identify potential bottlenecks. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI, deployments where the performance of a critical application is perceived to be degraded by end users. The challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the root cause without disrupting other users or making premature, potentially costly changes. The stakeholder perspective is crucial, as user perception directly impacts productivity and satisfaction, but it must be balanced against technical realities and the operational impact of troubleshooting. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven investigation. This aligns with best practices for IT service management and the principles of responsible system administration. By first gathering objective performance metrics from the Horizon environment and the application itself, administrators can identify deviations from baseline performance. This data then informs targeted troubleshooting steps, such as analyzing resource utilization, CPU, memory, disk I/O, network, on the Horizon connection server, unified access gateway, and the virtual desktops hosting the application. Investigating application-specific logs and performance counters provides further insight. This methodical approach minimizes disruption, ensures that changes are based on evidence, and ultimately leads to a more efficient and effective resolution, thereby upholding the professional responsibility to maintain service availability and performance. Incorrect approach is analysis. Focusing solely on end-user complaints without objective data is a failure of professional due diligence. While user feedback is important, it can be subjective and influenced by factors outside the VDI environment. Acting solely on anecdotal evidence without technical validation can lead to misdiagnosis, unnecessary configuration changes, and wasted resources. This approach risks alienating users further if the problem persists, or if the implemented fix causes new issues. Implementing broad, system-wide changes without a clear understanding of the root cause is a significant professional failing. For example, indiscriminately increasing resources for all virtual desktops or altering network configurations without identifying a specific bottleneck can negatively impact other applications and users, increase costs, and potentially introduce instability. This demonstrates a lack of analytical rigor and a disregard for the principle of least privilege and targeted intervention. Ignoring the potential for application-specific issues and solely blaming the VDI infrastructure is also professionally unsound. Many performance problems, even in a VDI context, originate within the application's design, configuration, or dependencies. A responsible administrator must consider all potential contributing factors, including the application layer, before concluding that the VDI platform is the sole culprit. This oversight can lead to prolonged downtime and user dissatisfaction. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured troubleshooting methodology. This typically involves defining the problem, gathering information, both subjective and objective, analyzing the data, hypothesizing potential causes, testing hypotheses, implementing solutions, and verifying the resolution. In a VDI environment, this means leveraging the monitoring and logging capabilities of VMware Horizon and the underlying infrastructure, correlating this data with application-specific performance indicators, and engaging with application owners when necessary. The goal is always to achieve the most effective resolution with the least impact on the overall service. Question 5. Consider a scenario where a company is experiencing an increase in support requests related to user access issues within their VMware Horizon 8 X environment. The IT support team, responsible for resolving these issues, currently has full administrative rights to all Horizon pods and desktops to expedite troubleshooting. However, the Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, has raised concerns about the potential security risks associated with such broad access. What is the most appropriate course of action to address the CISO concerns while maintaining efficient support operations? Option A. Rely on enhanced network security measures, such as stricter firewall rules and intrusion detection systems, to protect the Horizon environment from unauthorized access. Assuming the support team's broad internal access is acceptable. Option B. Provide the IT support team with a separate, dedicated administrative workstation with elevated privileges that can access the Horizon environment, while maintaining their standard user access for daily tasks. Option C. Grant the IT support team temporary, time-limited administrative access to specific Horizon components only when a support ticket requires it, requiring manual approval for each instance. Option D. Implement granular role-based access control RBAC within Horizon 8. X. Defining specific roles and permissions for different IT support functions, and grant these roles to the support team. The correct answer is D. Implement granular role-based access control RBAC within Horizon 8. X. Defining specific roles and permissions for different IT support functions, and grant these roles to the support team. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to managing user access and data security within a VMware Horizon 8. X environment, specifically concerning the principle of least privilege. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient IT support with the imperative to protect sensitive corporate data from unauthorized access or accidental exposure. A robust security posture requires that administrators only have the permissions necessary to perform their defined roles, minimizing the attack surface and the potential for misuse. The correct approach involves implementing granular role-based access control RBAC within Horizon 8. X. This aligns with best practices for security and compliance, ensuring that administrators are assigned specific roles with precisely defined privileges. For instance, a help desk technician might only have permissions to reset passwords and troubleshoot user sessions, while a senior administrator might have broader rights for system configuration and maintenance. This adherence to the principle of least privilege is a fundamental tenet of information security and is often implicitly or explicitly required by various regulatory frameworks that mandate data protection and access control. By limiting access, the organization reduces the risk of data breaches, insider threats, and compliance violations. An incorrect approach would be to grant all IT support staff full administrative privileges across the entire Horizon 8. X environment. This is professionally unacceptable because it violates the principle of least privilege. Such broad access increases the risk of accidental data deletion, unauthorized modifications to critical system settings, or the potential for malicious activity if an account is compromised. This lack of granular control makes it difficult to audit user actions effectively and can lead to significant security vulnerabilities. Another incorrect approach would be to rely solely on network-level security controls, such as firewalls, to protect the Horizon environment without implementing RBAC within the application itself. While network security is important, it does not address the internal access controls necessary to manage user and administrator privileges effectively within Horizon. This oversight leaves the environment vulnerable to internal threats or compromised credentials, as users with elevated network access could still potentially exploit broader administrative rights within Horizon if not properly segmented. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough risk assessment of all administrative functions. This assessment should then inform the design of RBAC roles that align with job responsibilities and the principle of least privilege. Regular audits of assigned roles and permissions are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance and security. When faced with a need for broader access, it should be temporary, documented, and granted only to specific individuals for a defined period and purpose. Question 6. The investigation demonstrates that a VMware Horizon 8 X environment is experiencing intermittent performance issues, and the IT team needs to access user session data for troubleshooting. The team is considering enabling comprehensive session recording to capture all user activities. However, concerns have been raised regarding the potential exposure of sensitive personal information and compliance with data privacy regulation. What is the most appropriate course of action to balance troubleshooting needs with data privacy obligations? Option A. Enable full user session recording for all users to ensure complete visibility for troubleshooting, assuming that any sensitive data captured will be handled securely by the IT team. Option B. Implement granular logging and monitoring that captures only essential technical data for performance analysis, anonymizing or aggregating any user-specific information where possible, and ensure clear policies are in place regarding data access and retention. Option C. Rely on the default logging and monitoring settings within VMware Horizon 8 X, as these are designed to be comprehensive and compliant by default. Option D. Immediately disable all user session logging to eliminate any risk of data exposure, even if it hinders the ability to diagnose performance issues effectively. Correct answer is B. Implement granular logging and monitoring that captures only essential technical data for performance analysis, anonymizing or aggregating any user-specific information where possible, and ensure clear policies are in place regarding data access and retention. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to the ethical and regulatory implications of data privacy within a virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI, environment. The core difficulty lies in balancing the organization's need for operational insights and troubleshooting capabilities with the paramount requirement to protect sensitive user data, as mandated by relevant data protection regulations. The ambiguity surrounding the scope of monitoring and the potential for unintended data exposure necessitates a cautious and compliant approach. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes data minimization and anonymization, aligning with the principles of data protection by design and by default. By implementing granular access controls and ensuring that only anonymized or aggregated data is used for troubleshooting, the organization adheres to the spirit and letter of data privacy regulations. This approach minimizes the risk of unauthorized access to or disclosure of personal data, thereby safeguarding user privacy and maintaining regulatory compliance. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible data handling and builds trust with users. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves broadly enabling full user session recording without explicit user consent or a clearly defined limited purpose. This violates data privacy principles by collecting more data than necessary and increases the risk of exposing sensitive personal information. It fails to adhere to the principle of data minimization and could lead to regulatory penalties for non-compliance with data protection laws. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on technical controls without establishing clear policies and procedures for data access and retention. While technical measures are important, they are insufficient on their own. Without defined policies, there is a risk of data misuse, unauthorized access, or prolonged retention of sensitive information beyond what is permissible, leading to regulatory breaches and ethical concerns. A third incorrect approach is to assume that anonymization is automatically achieved by default VDI logging mechanisms without verification. This is a critical failure as default settings may not adequately protect personal data. Without actively verifying and configuring logging to ensure true anonymization or aggregation, the organization remains vulnerable to data breaches and regulatory noncompliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential data privacy risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, and then implementing controls to mitigate those risks. Key steps include understanding the specific data protection regulations applicable to the organization's jurisdiction, conducting a thorough data protection impact assessment (DPIA) for VDI operations, defining clear policies for data collection, usage, retention, and access, implementing technical controls that support data minimization and anonymization, and ensuring ongoing training and awareness for IT staff. When in doubt, always err on the side of greater data protection and seek legal counsel if necessary. Question 7. Upon reviewing user feedback indicating slow performance for critical finance department's virtual desktops, a Horizon administrator is tasked with identifying the root cause and proposing a solution. The administrator notes that the current Horizon 8X deployment utilizes a standard concurrent connection license. The finance department's workload is characterized by intensive data processing and frequent access to large datasets, which has recently increased. The administrator is considering several immediate actions to improve responsiveness. Which of the following approaches best balances performance improvement with adherence to VMware Horizon 8X licensing and best practices? Option A. Immediately increase the number of available concurrent connections by purchasing additional licenses, as this is the most straightforward way to address perceived performance issues related to user load. Option B. Implement a new separate Horizon 8X environment specifically for the finance department, utilizing a different licensing model that might offer better performance for their specific workload, without first analyzing the current environment's resource constraints. Option C. Investigate the specific resource utilization, CPU, memory, storage IOPS, of the finance department's virtual desktops and analyze their current usage patterns to determine if the existing concurrent connection licenses are being fully utilized or if specific desktop configurations are bottlenecking performance before considering any licensing changes. Option D. Upgrade the Horizon 8X environment to the Enterprise Edition and enable advanced features that are known to improve application performance, assuming this will resolve the user complaints. The correct answer is D. Upgrade the Horizon 8X environment to the Enterprise Edition and enable advanced features that are known to improve application performance, assuming this will resolve the user complaints. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI, environments where performance and user experience are paramount, but also subject to resource constraints and licensing considerations. The challenge lies in balancing the need for responsive virtual desktops for a critical business function, with the potential for increased costs and the complexity of managing different licensing models. A hasty decision could lead to non-compliance, degraded performance, or unnecessary expenditure. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of the specific workload requirements and a detailed understanding of VMware Horizon licensing. This aligns with best professional practices by ensuring that any proposed solution is technically sound, cost-effective, and compliant with licensing agreements. Specifically, understanding that Horizon 8X licensing is often per concurrent connection or per named user, and that certain features or additions may have different licensing implications, is crucial. Choosing a solution that leverages existing licenses where possible or justifies the need for additional licenses based on demonstrable business value and usage patterns represents a responsible and compliant decision. This approach prioritizes informed decision-making over reactive measures. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a solution without a clear understanding of the licensing implications is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. For instance, deploying a higher-tier Horizon Edition or enabling features that require additional licenses without proper procurement would constitute a breach of the licensing agreement, leading to potential legal and financial repercussions. Similarly, making a decision based solely on perceived ease of implementation without considering the long-term cost and compliance aspects is unprofessional. This could involve overlooking the fact that a seemingly simple configuration change might inadvertently trigger a need for more expensive licenses or violate terms of service. Another failure would be to ignore the specific workload requirements and apply a generic solution, which could lead to over-licensing or under-provisioning, both of which are inefficient and potentially non-compliant if the licensing model is tied to usage or feature sets. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem and its impact. This is followed by gathering all relevant information, including technical requirements, performance metrics, and crucially, licensing terms and conditions. Evaluating potential solutions against these criteria, considering both technical feasibility and compliance, is the next step. Finally, documenting the decision-making process and the rationale behind the chosen solution provides accountability and a reference for future audits or reviews. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are not only effective, but also ethical and compliant. Question 8. Compliance review shows that the organization's VMware Horizon 8X environment is used to access and process sensitive customer financial data. The review highlights a lack of specific controls to prevent unauthorized access or exfiltration of this data from within the virtual desktops, beyond standard network firewalls. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure regulatory compliance and protect sensitive data? Option A. Rely on existing perimeter security measures and assume that the virtual desktop environment is sufficiently protected by the corporate network's firewalls. Option B. Grant broad administrative access to the virtual desktop environment to a wider group of IT personnel to facilitate quicker troubleshooting and incident response. Option C. Implement granular data loss prevention (DLP) policies within the Horizon environment, including data masking, encryption of sensitive data at rest and in transit within the virtual desktop, and strict access controls based on the principle of least privilege. Option D. Disable detailed logging and auditing of user activity within the virtual desktops to minimize the risk of sensitive data being inadvertently captured in logs. The correct answer is C. Implement granular data loss prevention, DLP, policies within the Horizon environment, including data masking, encryption of sensitive data at rest and in transit within the virtual desktop, and strict access controls based on the principle of least privilege. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to data privacy and security within a virtual desktop infrastructure, specifically concerning the handling of sensitive user data accessed through VMware Horizon 8. The core difficulty lies in balancing the operational necessity of monitoring and troubleshooting with the stringent regulatory requirements for data protection. Professionals must navigate the complexities of identifying and securing personally identifiable information, PI, and other sensitive data without compromising user privacy or violating applicable regulations. The correct approach involves implementing a robust data loss prevention, DLP strategy that is integrated with the Horizon environment. This approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the regulatory mandate to protect sensitive data. By employing technical controls like data masking, encryption, and access controls at the endpoint and within the virtual desktop, organizations can significantly reduce the risk of unauthorized access or exfiltration of PII. This proactive, layered security posture aligns with the principles of data minimization and privacy by design, which are fundamental to many data protection regulations. An incorrect approach would be to rely solely on general network security measures without specific consideration for the data within the virtual desktops. This fails to meet regulatory requirements because it does not adequately address the unique risks associated with data residing on or being accessed from endpoints. Such an approach could lead to regulatory violations, fines, and reputational damage due to potential data breaches. Another incorrect approach is to disable logging and monitoring features to avoid potential exposure of sensitive data. This is professionally unacceptable as it creates an operational blind spot, hindering the ability to detect and respond to security incidents, troubleshoot performance issues, or conduct necessary audits. This directly contravenes the principle of accountability and the need for a comprehensive security posture, which often necessitates detailed logging. A third incorrect approach is to implement broad, indiscriminate data access policies that grant excessive permissions to administrators. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it increases the attack surface and the likelihood of accidental or malicious data exposure. It violates the principle of least privilege, a cornerstone of secure system design and data protection. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes risk assessment, regulatory compliance, and the implementation of appropriate technical and organizational controls. This involves understanding the specific data types being handled, the relevant regulatory landscape, and the capabilities of the VMware Horizon 8 platform to enforce security policies. A structured approach, starting with a thorough data inventory and risk analysis, followed by the selection and implementation of controls that align with regulatory mandates and best practices, is crucial for maintaining a secure and compliant virtual desktop environment. Question 9. Examination of the data shows a proposal to modify the user access policies within the VMware Horizon 8 environment to grant broader access to a new set of internal applications. This change is driven by user feedback requesting more streamlined access to resources. What is the most professional and compliant approach to managing this proposed change? Option A. Implement the policy changes immediately to address user feedback and improve productivity, as the applications are internal and presumed to be secure. Option B. Rely on the IT team's collective experience to gauge the potential risks and implement the changes with minimal formal documentation. Option C. Proceed with the policy changes based on the assumption that existing security controls will adequately protect the broader access granted. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the security implications, regulatory compliance requirements, and operational effects of the proposed policy changes before implementation. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the security implications, regulatory compliance requirements, and operational effects of the proposed policy changes before implementation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT environments. balancing the need for robust security and compliance with the operational demands of a dynamic user base. The core professional challenge lies in accurately assessing the impact of a proposed change on the security posture and regulatory adherence of the VMware Horizon 8 X environment. Without a thorough impact assessment, the organization risks introducing vulnerabilities, violating data privacy regulations, or disrupting critical business operations. The complexity arises from the interconnectedness of Horizon components, user access policies, and underlying infrastructure, all of which must be considered. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and comprehensive impact assessment that considers all relevant factors. This includes evaluating the proposed change against the organization's security policies, data classification standards, and applicable regulatory frameworks e.g., GDPR, HIPAA, CCPA, depending on the jurisdiction and data handled. A detailed assessment would identify potential security risks, such as increased attack surface, unauthorized data access, or compliance gaps. It would also consider the operational impact on end users, application performance, and infrastructure resources. Documenting these findings and proposing mitigation strategies before implementation is crucial for demonstrating due diligence and ensuring a secure and compliant deployment. This aligns with best practices for change management and risk management, which are often implicitly or explicitly required by regulatory bodies, overseeing data protection and IT security. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the change without a formal impact assessment is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for established security protocols and compliance obligations, potentially leading to data breaches, fines, and reputational damage. This approach bypasses critical risk identification and mitigation steps, directly violating principles of responsible data handling and system security. Proceeding with the change based solely on user requests, without a technical or security review, is another regulatory and ethical failure. User convenience should not supersede security and compliance requirements. This approach ignores the potential for unintended consequences that could compromise sensitive data or violate privacy laws, such as the principle of data minimization or purpose limitation. Relying on anecdotal evidence or past experience without a formal, documented assessment is also professionally unacceptable. While experience is valuable, it cannot replace a structured evaluation of a specific change in the current environment. This approach lacks the rigor required to identify unique risks associated with the proposed modification and fails to provide auditable evidence of due diligence, which is often a requirement for regulatory compliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals must adopt a proactive and risk-aware approach to system changes. The decision-making process should involve 1. Understanding the proposed change and its intended benefits. 2. Identifying all relevant stakeholders, including security, compliance, and operations teams. 3. Conducting a thorough impact assessment covering security, compliance, operational, and user experience aspects. 4. Documenting all findings, risks, and proposed mitigation strategies. 5. Obtaining formal approval based on the assessment results. 6. Implementing the change with appropriate monitoring and validation. This structured approach ensures that changes are made responsibly, minimizing risks and maintaining compliance with all applicable regulations and ethical standards. Question 10. Performance analysis shows a significant increase in user-reported latency and slow application response times across multiple VMware Horizon 8 X virtual desktops. What is the most effective initial approach to diagnose and resolve this issue? Option A. Review Horizon Connection Server and Unified Access Gateway logs for errors or performance anomalies. Then examine vCenter Server and XC-host performance metrics for resource contention, CPU, memory, storage I/O, and finally investigate individual virtual desktop resource utilization and application behavior. Option B. Begin reprovisioning all affected virtual desktops to ensure a clean and optimal baseline environment for all users. Option C. Immediately initiate a network diagnostic sweep of all user endpoints and their local network infrastructure to identify potential connectivity issues impacting session performance. Option D. Focus on analyzing the performance of specific business-critical applications on a small sample of representative virtual desktops to pinpoint application-level bottlenecks. The correct answer is A. Review Horizon Connection Server and Unified Access Gateway logs for errors or performance anomalies. Then examine vCenter Server and XC host performance metrics for resource contention, CPU, memory, storage I/O. And finally, investigate individual virtual desktop resource utilization and application behavior. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure management, identifying the root cause of performance degradation when multiple factors could be at play. The professional challenge lies in efficiently and accurately diagnosing the issue without disrupting user productivity or incurring unnecessary costs. This requires a systematic approach that prioritizes the most likely culprits and leverages available diagnostic tools. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the most probable causes of performance issues in a VMware Horizon 8X environment, aligning with established IT best practices for troubleshooting. By first examining the Horizon infrastructure itself, specifically the connection server and unified access gateway, UAG logs, administrators can quickly identify potential bottlenecks or errors within the core brokering and access components. This is crucial because these components are central to session establishment and management. Subsequently, investigating the vCenter server and XC hosts for resource contention, CPU, memory, storage I/O, is the logical next step, as these underlying virtualization resources directly impact the performance of the virtual desktops. Finally, examining the virtual desktops themselves for application-level issues or resource exhaustion provides a comprehensive, layered troubleshooting methodology. This systematic, top-down approach minimizes downtime and ensures that the most impactful issues are addressed first, adhering to principles of efficient resource utilization and service availability. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on end-user network connectivity without first verifying the health of the Horizon infrastructure would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to acknowledge that performance issues can originate within the virtual environment itself, independent of the user's local network. Such an approach could lead to wasted time and resources troubleshooting external factors while the actual problem lies within the Horizon deployment, potentially violating service-level agreements, SLAs, and causing prolonged user impact. Another incorrect approach, such as immediately reprovisioning all virtual desktops, is a drastic and inefficient measure. This disregards the principle of targeted troubleshooting and can lead to significant downtime, data loss if not properly managed, and unnecessary operational overhead. It fails to identify the specific cause and instead applies a broad, disruptive solution, which is not indicative of professional problem-solving. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing the analysis of individual application performance on a few selected desktops before examining the core infrastructure, is also professionally unsound. While application performance is a user-facing metric, it is often a symptom of underlying infrastructure issues. Focusing on applications in isolation, without understanding the health of the Horizon components or the underlying virtualization layer, can lead to misdiagnosis and ineffective remediation. The professional reasoning process for such situations should involve a structured, layered troubleshooting methodology. This begins with understanding the reported symptoms, then moves to verifying the health of the core infrastructure components, Horizon connection servers, UAG, followed by the underlying virtualization platform, vCenter, XC, and finally, the individual virtual desktops and their applications. This approach prioritizes efficiency, minimizes disruption, and ensures that the root cause is identified and addressed effectively. Question 11. Stakeholder feedback indicates a strong desire to immediately leverage new features in VMware Horizon 8X to enhance user productivity. What is the most appropriate next step? Option A. Proceed with immediate deployment of the new features to capitalize on the perceived productivity gains. Option B. Implement a phased rollout of the new features, addressing issues as they arise during each phase. Option C. Focus on the technical configuration and deployment of the new features, assuming minimal disruption. Option D. Initiate a formal impact assessment to evaluate potential effects on existing infrastructure, security, and user workflows. The correct answer is D. Initiate a formal impact assessment to evaluate potential effects on existing infrastructure, security, and user workflows. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT project management, balancing the desire for rapid deployment with the imperative to thoroughly assess potential impacts. Stakeholder feedback, while valuable, can sometimes be driven by immediate needs or incomplete understanding of broader implications. The professional challenge lies in translating this feedback into a structured, risk-aware approach that aligns with organizational policies and best practices for technology adoption, particularly within the context of a regulated environment implied by professional certifications. A failure to conduct a proper impact assessment can lead to unforeseen operational disruptions, security vulnerabilities, or non-compliance, all of which carry significant professional and organizational risk. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves initiating a formal impact assessment process. This aligns with established IT governance frameworks and best practices, which mandate a systematic evaluation of how a new technology or change will affect existing systems, processes, users, and security postures. Within the VMware Horizon 8 X professional context, this means understanding how changes to the virtual desktop infrastructure might affect end-user experience, application compatibility, network performance, data security, and administrative overhead. A formal assessment allows for the identification of potential risks and the development of mitigation strategies before deployment, ensuring that the technology is implemented in a controlled and beneficial manner. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining service availability, data integrity, and user satisfaction, all of which are implicitly governed by professional standards of care and operational excellence. Incorrect approaches analysis. Proceeding with immediate deployment based solely on positive stakeholder feedback, without a formal impact assessment, represents a significant professional failure. It bypasses critical risk identification and mitigation steps, potentially leading to unforeseen disruptions that could have been prevented. This approach disregards the principle of due diligence and can result in operational instability, security breaches, or increased support costs, all of which are detrimental to the organization and reflect poorly on the professional's judgment. Implementing a phased rollout without a preceding impact assessment, while seemingly a risk reduction tactic, is still professionally unsound. A phased rollout can mitigate the scope of an impact, but it does not address the nature of the impact itself. Without understanding what those impacts might be, even a phased rollout can encounter unexpected problems that affect subsequent phases or require costly remediation. It is a partial mitigation at best, but not a substitute for understanding the potential consequences upfront. Focusing solely on the technical implementation details of the new Horizon 8 X features, while important, is insufficient. This approach neglects the broader organizational and user-centric impacts. A technically sound implementation can still be a failure if it negatively affects user productivity, data security, or compliance requirements. Professional responsibility extends beyond the technical realm to encompass the holistic success of the technology within the business context. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a structured, risk-based decision-making process. When presented with stakeholder feedback suggesting a new technology or feature, the first step should be to understand the potential implications. This involves initiating a formal impact assessment that considers technical, operational, security, and user experience aspects. The assessment should identify potential risks, quantify their likelihood and severity, and propose mitigation strategies. Based on the assessment findings, a well-informed decision can be made regarding the feasibility, timing, and approach to implementation. This process ensures that technology adoption is aligned with business objectives, minimizes disruption, and upholds professional standards of competence and responsibility. Question 12. Analysis of intermittent performance degradation experienced by users accessing a critical business application within a VMware Horizon 8 X environment, where the degradation is reported to be sporadic and not consistently reproducible by the IT support team. The goal is to identify the root cause and implement a sustainable solution without negatively impacting other users or incurring unnecessary infrastructure costs. Option A. Systematically analyze VMware Horizon performance metrics, application logs, and relevant system event logs to correlate user-reported issues with specific infrastructure or application resource utilization patterns. Option B. Disable detailed logging within VMware Horizon to reduce system overhead and simplify troubleshooting by focusing only on user feedback. Option C. Advise users to avoid using the critical application during peak hours until a solution can be identified. Option D. Immediately increase the CPU and RAM allocation for all virtual desktops to preemptively address potential resource contention. The correct answer is A. Systematically analyze VMware Horizon performance metrics, application logs, and relevant system event logs to correlate user-reported issues with specific infrastructure or application resource utilization patterns. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure management, balancing user experience with resource optimization and security. Professional is tasked with ensuring that a critical application, essential for daily operations, performs adequately for all users accessing it via VMware Horizon 8X, while also managing the underlying infrastructure costs and potential performance bottlenecks. The challenge lies in identifying the root cause of intermittent performance degradation for a specific application without negatively impacting other users or introducing security vulnerabilities. A hasty or uninformed decision could lead to over-provisioning resources, increasing costs, or conversely, under-provisioning, leading to widespread user dissatisfaction and reduced productivity. The need for a systematic, data-driven approach is paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a methodical investigation using VMware Horizon's built-in monitoring and logging tools, coupled with application-specific performance metrics. This includes analyzing Horizon's performance dashboards, event logs, and potentially leveraging application performance monitoring, APM tools if integrated. The goal is to pinpoint whether the performance issues are related to the virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI itself, e.g., CPU, memory, storage, network latency, the application's resource consumption, or external factors. By correlating user experience data with infrastructure metrics, the professional can identify specific patterns or thresholds that trigger the degradation. This data-driven methodology ensures that any remediation efforts are targeted, efficient, and justifiable, aligning with best practices for VDI management and operational excellence. This approach prioritizes understanding the problem before implementing a solution, minimizing risk and maximizing the likelihood of a successful outcome. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing a broad, system-wide resource increase without specific diagnostic data is a failure of professional due diligence. This approach is akin to treating a symptom without diagnosing the disease. It is professionally unacceptable because it leads to inefficient resource allocation, increased operational costs, and potentially masks underlying issues that could resurface or cause new problems. Ethically, it represents a failure to act as a responsible steward of organizational resources. Disabling Horizon's monitoring and logging features to reduce overhead is a severe regulatory and ethical failure. Monitoring and logging are critical for troubleshooting, security auditing, and compliance. Disabling them creates a blind spot, making it impossible to diagnose future issues, investigate security incidents, or demonstrate adherence to any relevant operational guidelines. This directly contravenes the principle of maintaining a secure and auditable environment. Focusing solely on end-user complaints without investigating the underlying technical causes is an incomplete and unprofessional approach. While user feedback is valuable, it is often subjective and may not accurately reflect the root technical problem. Without correlating these complaints with objective performance data from the VDI environment and the application, any proposed solution is speculative and unlikely to be effective. This can lead to wasted effort and continued user frustration, demonstrating a lack of analytical rigor. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a systematic, evidence-based approach to problem solving. This involves 1. Understanding the reported issue and its impact. 2. Leveraging available diagnostic tools and data to gather objective evidence. 3. Analyzing the data to identify root causes, considering all potential contributing factors within the VDI ecosystem and the application. 4. Developing targeted solutions based on the identified root causes. 5. Implementing and testing solutions, continuously monitoring for effectiveness. 6. Documenting the process, findings, and resolutions for future reference and knowledge sharing. This structured decision-making process ensures that actions are informed, efficient, and aligned with organizational objectives and best practices. Question 13. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to integrating new business applications into a VMware Horizon 8 X environment. A critical business unit has requested the immediate deployment of a new productivity application to a significant user group. The IT operations team is concerned about the potential impact on existing VDI images and the security posture of the virtual desktops. What is the most professional and secure approach to fulfill this request while mitigating risks? Option A. Develop a new dedicated Horizon 8 X master image incorporating the application, thoroughly test it in a dedicated lab environment, validate its security compliance, and then deploy it to the target user group through a controlled image update process. Option B. Deploy the application to a small, isolated group of production virtual desktops to gauge user feedback before a wider rollout. Option C. Directly install the application onto the existing production master image without any prior testing or validation, as the business unit requires immediate access. Option D. Instruct the end users in the critical business unit to manually install the application on their assigned virtual desktops, providing them with basic installation instructions. The correct answer is A. Develop a new dedicated Horizon 8 X master image incorporating the application, thoroughly test it in a dedicated lab environment, validate its security compliance, and then deploy it to the target user group through a controlled image update process. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in enterprise IT environments, balancing the need for rapid deployment of new services with the imperative to maintain a secure and compliant virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI. The pressure to deliver a new application to a critical user group quickly can lead to shortcuts that bypass established security and operational procedures. The professional challenge lies in navigating these competing demands, ensuring that the immediate business need does not compromise long-term security posture, regulatory compliance, or the stability of the Horizon environment. The risk of introducing vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, or unsupported elements into the production environment is significant. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a structured and phased deployment that prioritizes security and compliance throughout the lifecycle. This aligns with best practices for IT service management and the principles of secure VDI deployment. Specifically, it emphasizes thorough testing in a non-production environment, adherence to established image management policies, and validation against security baselines before introducing the application to production. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of introducing security vulnerabilities, ensures compatibility with existing infrastructure, and maintains the integrity of the Horizon 8 X environment. It also supports auditability and troubleshooting by ensuring all changes are documented and controlled. Incorrect approach is analysis. Deploying the application directly to production without prior testing or image validation represents a significant security and operational risk. This bypasses critical quality assurance steps, potentially introducing application conflicts, performance issues, or security vulnerabilities that could impact the entire VDI farm. It violates the principle of least privilege and controlled change management, making the environment unstable and difficult to support. Implementing the application on a subset of production desktops without a proper image update or testing mechanism is also problematic. While it might seem like a contained experiment, it creates an inconsistent environment. This can lead to user experience issues, support challenges, and security gaps if not all desktops are uniformly updated. It also complicates patching and image management, leading to a drift from the standardized baseline. Relying solely on user self-installation or manual installation on individual desktops is a severe security and management failure. This approach completely relinquishes control over the software deployed, its configuration, and its security posture. It opens the door to unauthorized software, malware, and misconfigurations, making the VDI environment highly vulnerable and unmanageable. It also creates an insurmountable support burden and makes compliance auditing virtually impossible. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach to VDI deployments. This involves understanding the potential impact of any change on the security, performance, and compliance of the Horizon environment. A robust change management process, including thorough testing in development and staging environments, adherence to image management best practices, and validation against security baselines, is paramount. When faced with pressure for rapid deployment, professionals must advocate for these controlled processes, clearly articulating the risks associated with shortcuts. The decision-making framework should prioritize the long-term health and security of the VDI infrastructure over short-term expediency. Question 14. The evaluation methodology shows that a new corporate security baseline, mandating specific registry modifications and application restrictions, has been established. The IT team is responsible for deploying new virtual desktops to a growing user base using VMware Horizon 8X to ensure all new virtual desktops adhere to the new security baseline from the moment they are provisioned. What is the most effective and compliant approach for integrating these security requirements into the virtual desktop environment? Option A. Delay the master image update until the next scheduled maintenance window and inform users about the new security baseline. Option B. Manually apply the new security baseline to each newly provisioned virtual desktop after it has been deployed. Option C. Update the master image with the new security baseline and then provision new virtual desktops from this updated image. Option D. Instruct end users to manually configure their virtual desktops to comply with the new security baseline. The correct answer is C. Update the master image with the new security baseline and then provision new virtual desktops from this updated image. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a common challenge in managing virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI, environments, ensuring consistent and secure user experiences while adhering to evolving security policies. In this scenario, the challenge lies in balancing the need for rapid deployment of new virtual desktops with the imperative to maintain a hardened and compliant image. The introduction of a new security baseline, which includes specific registry modifications and application restrictions, necessitates a robust and repeatable process for image management. Failure to properly integrate this baseline into the master image can lead to non-compliance, increased vulnerability, and a fractured user experience across the Horizon deployment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core requirement of image management within a VDI lifecycle. By updating the master image with the new security baseline before provisioning new virtual desktops, the organization ensures that all newly deployed machines are compliant from the outset. This proactive strategy minimizes the risk of deploying non-compliant systems, reduces the need for post-deployment remediation, and provides a consistent security posture for all users. This aligns with the principle of security by design and efficient VDI operations, ensuring that the infrastructure remains secure and manageable. An incorrect approach that involves manually applying the security baseline to each newly provisioned desktop after deployment is professionally unacceptable. This method is inefficient, prone to human error, and creates a window of vulnerability where desktops are non-compliant. It also leads to an inconsistent user experience, as some desktops might receive the updates faster than others. Furthermore, it deviates from best practices in image management, which emphasize a single source of truth for desktop configurations. Another incorrect approach, which is to delay the image update until a scheduled maintenance window, is also professionally unacceptable. This creates a significant security risk by knowingly allowing non-compliant desktops to be deployed into the production environment. The delay increases the attack surface and the potential for security incidents. It demonstrates a lack of urgency in addressing critical security requirements and prioritizes convenience over security and compliance. A third incorrect approach, which is to inform users about the new security baseline and instruct them to manually configure their desktops, is fundamentally flawed. This places an undue burden on end users, who are typically not IT security experts, and is highly unlikely to result in consistent or accurate implementation of the security baseline. It also bypasses established IT governance and control mechanisms, leading to a chaotic and insecure environment. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the VDI lifecycle, including image creation, management, and deployment. It requires prioritizing security and compliance requirements from the initial design phase. When new security baselines or policies are introduced, the immediate step should be to evaluate their impact on the master image. The most efficient and secure method is to integrate these changes into the master image and then use that updated image for all subsequent provisioning. This proactive and centralized approach ensures consistency, security, and operational efficiency. Question 15. Research into the deployment of a VMware Horizon 8X X environment for a financial services firm operating under strict data privacy regulations. A key concern is the secure management of user sessions and the protection of sensitive client data accessed via virtual desktops. The firm needs to implement a solution that ensures only authorized personnel can access specific client information, maintains an audit trail of all user activities, and encrypts data in transit and at rest. Which of the following approaches best addresses these requirements while adhering to regulatory mandates for data protection and access control? Option A. Relying solely on the operating system's built-in security features on the virtual desktops and disabling all Horizon-specific security configurations to simplify management. Option B. Implementing multi-factor authentication for all user logins, configuring granular role-based access control (RBAC) within Horizon to restrict access to specific applications and data sources, enabling end-to-end encryption for all Horizon connections, and configuring comprehensive logging and auditing of user sessions and administrative actions. Option C. Enabling basic user authentication and allowing broad access to all available applications and data for all users to maximize productivity and minimize administrative overhead. Option D. Deploying Horizon without any specific security hardening, assuming that the underlying network infrastructure provides sufficient protection for the virtual desktops. Correct answer is B. Implementing multi-factor authentication for all user logins, configuring granular role-based access control (RBAC) within Horizon to restrict access to specific applications and data sources, enabling end-to-end encryption for all Horizon connections, and configuring comprehensive logging and auditing of user sessions and administrative actions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to the secure and compliant deployment of virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI, using VMware Horizon 8X within a regulated environment. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for robust security controls to protect sensitive data with the operational requirement for efficient user access and management. Organizations operating under specific regulatory frameworks must ensure that their VDI solutions adhere to data protection mandates, access control policies, and audit logging requirements. Failure to do so can result in significant compliance breaches, financial penalties, and reputational damage. The correct approach emphasizes a layered security strategy that integrates VMware Horizon's native security features with established best practices for network security and endpoint protection. This involves implementing strong authentication mechanisms, granular access controls, encrypted communication channels, and comprehensive logging. Such an approach aligns with the principles of data minimization, least privilege, and accountability, which are fundamental to most regulatory frameworks governing data handling and IT security. By proactively addressing security at multiple levels, this strategy ensures that sensitive data remains protected throughout its lifecycle, from access to storage and transmission, thereby meeting compliance obligations. Incorrect approaches fail to adequately address the multifaceted nature of VDI security and compliance. One incorrect approach might overlook the importance of granular access controls, leading to over-provisioning of privileges and increasing the attack surface. This violates the principle of least privilege, a cornerstone of secure computing and a common regulatory requirement. Another incorrect approach could neglect comprehensive logging and monitoring, hindering the ability to detect and respond to security incidents or to provide audit trails for compliance purposes. This directly contravenes regulations that mandate robust audit capabilities and incident response readiness. A third incorrect approach might prioritize user convenience over security, for instance, by disabling multi-factor authentication or using weak encryption protocols. This not only exposes the VDI environment to unauthorized access, but also breaches the duty of care to protect data, a fundamental ethical and regulatory obligation. Professionals should adopt a systematic decision-making process that begins with a thorough understanding of the applicable regulatory requirements. This should be followed by a risk assessment to identify potential vulnerabilities and threats specific to the VDI environment. Subsequently, a security architecture should be designed that incorporates defense-in-depth principles, leveraging both VMware Horizon's capabilities and complementary security solutions. Regular security audits, penetration testing, and continuous monitoring are crucial to ensure ongoing compliance, and to adapt to evolving threat landscapes. Question 16. The control framework reveals that a new, resource-intensive business application is scheduled for deployment within the VMware Horizon 8X environment. The application requires significant processing power and memory, and its data handling capabilities must be scrutinized for compliance with data privacy regulations. The current Horizon infrastructure is operating within acceptable performance parameters for existing workloads. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure both successful application deployment and ongoing regulatory compliance? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the application's resource requirements and data handling protocols, followed by a phased pilot deployment to validate performance and compliance before a full rollout. Option B. Deploy the application immediately to a select group of users on the most powerful available virtual desktops to meet urgent business needs. Option C. Upgrade all Horizon infrastructure components to their maximum specifications to proactively accommodate the new application's demands. Option D. Implement the application on a few high-performance machines, assuming that the rest of the virtual desktop pool will not be significantly impacted. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive assessment of the application's resource requirements and data handling protocols, followed by a phased pilot deployment to validate performance and compliance before a full rollout. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure management, balancing user experience and performance with the need to maintain a secure and compliant environment. The introduction of a new, resource-intensive application without prior assessment creates a direct conflict between operational demands and regulatory adherence. The professional is tasked with resolving this conflict while ensuring that the organization's compliance posture, particularly concerning data access and auditability, is not compromised. The challenge lies in identifying a solution that is technically feasible, cost-effective, and crucially, aligns with the established regulatory framework governing the use of virtual desktop environments. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough assessment of the application's resource requirements and its potential impact on the Horizon 8X environment. This includes evaluating the existing infrastructure's capacity, identifying potential bottlenecks, and determining if the current configuration can support the new application without degrading performance for other users or compromising security. Furthermore, it necessitates a review of the application's data handling practices to ensure compliance with relevant data protection regulations. Implementing a pilot program with a subset of users allows for real-world testing and validation of the chosen solution before a full rollout. This methodical, risk-based approach is best professional practice because it proactively addresses potential issues, minimizes disruption, and ensures that any changes are implemented in a controlled and compliant manner, aligning with the principles of responsible IT governance and data security. Incorrect approaches analysis. Deploying the application immediately without any assessment is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for the established control framework and the potential for security vulnerabilities or performance degradation that could lead to non-compliance with data protection and operational integrity mandates. This approach prioritizes expediency over due diligence, risking data breaches, unauthorized access, or service disruptions, all of which have severe regulatory implications. Implementing the application on a few high-performance machines without considering the broader impact on the virtual desktop pool is also problematic. While it might address the immediate need for a few users, it creates an inconsistent and potentially insecure environment. This approach can lead to uneven resource allocation, making it difficult to enforce consistent security policies and audit user activity across the entire Horizon deployment. It also fails to address the scalability and manageability concerns inherent in a large-scale virtual desktop environment, potentially leading to future compliance issues. Upgrading all Horizon infrastructure components to the highest possible specifications without a clear understanding of the application's actual needs is an inefficient and potentially non-compliant approach. This shotgun method is wasteful of resources and may not even solve the underlying problem if the application has specific configuration requirements beyond raw processing power. It also bypasses the necessary risk assessment and validation steps, potentially introducing new vulnerabilities or compliance gaps by over-provisioning or misconfiguring the environment. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this domain must adopt a structured, risk-based decision-making process. This involves understanding the regulatory landscape, assessing the technical implications of any proposed change, and prioritizing user experience and security. When faced with new application deployments, the process should include 1. Requirement gathering. Understand the application's technical and data handling needs. 2. Impact assessment. Evaluate the potential impact on the existing Horizon environment, including performance, security, and compliance. 3. Solution design. Develop a solution that addresses the requirements while adhering to the regulatory framework. 4. Testing and validation. Conduct pilot programs and thorough testing to ensure the solution is effective and compliant. 5. Deployment and monitoring. Implement the solution in a controlled manner and continuously monitor its performance and compliance. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with organizational objectives and regulatory obligations. Question 17. Performance analysis shows a noticeable degradation in user experience for a significant portion of remote users connecting to VMware Horizon 8 X virtual desktops. Users are reporting slow application responsiveness, intermittent disconnects, and longer login times. The issue appears to be widespread but not affecting all users equally. The IT operations team needs to quickly identify and resolve the root cause to restore optimal performance and user productivity. Option A. Proceed with a full redeployment of the Horizon connection servers and security servers, as this is often the quickest way to resolve infrastructure-related performance issues. Option B. Immediately instruct all affected users to reboot their local endpoint devices and ensure their internet connections are stable, assuming the issue is primarily client-side. Option C. Begin by thoroughly analyzing performance metrics and logs from the Horizon connection servers, security servers, Unified Access Gateway (UAG) appliances, and the underlying vSphere infrastructure (SC) hosts, storage, and network. Concurrently, examine app volumes and DEM Dynamic Environment Manager performance if applicable. Option D. Initiate a mass update of all guest operating systems within the virtual desktop pool to the latest patch level, hypothesizing that outdated OS components are the cause. The correct answer is C. Begin by thoroughly analyzing performance metrics and logs from the Horizon connection servers, security servers, Unified Access Gateway (UAG) appliances, and the underlying vSphere infrastructure (SC) hosts, storage, and network. Concurrently, examine app volumes and DEM Dynamic Environment Manager performance if applicable. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure management, ensuring consistent user experience and application performance across a distributed environment. The core difficulty lies in identifying the root cause of performance degradation when multiple factors can contribute, including network latency, resource contention on the Horizon infrastructure, or issues within the guest operating system and applications themselves. The professional challenge is to isolate the problem efficiently and implement a solution that minimizes user impact and adheres to service-level agreements, SLAs, without introducing new issues. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, layered investigation that begins with the most probable and impactful areas. Starting with the Horizon infrastructure, connection servers, security servers, app volumes, UAG, and the underlying vSphere environment (SC) hosts, storage, network, is crucial because these components form the foundation of the virtual desktop delivery. Analyzing Horizon-specific metrics like Blast Extreme session performance, app volumes attachment times, and vSphere performance counters, CPU, memory, disk I/O, network, provides direct insights into the health and capacity of the virtual infrastructure. This methodical approach ensures that the most common and widespread issues are addressed first, aligning with best practices for troubleshooting complex distributed systems, and adhering to the principle of least privilege when making changes. It also supports the organization's responsibility to provide a reliable and performant service to its users, a key tenet of IT service management. Incorrect approaches analysis. Focusing solely on end-user devices without first validating the Horizon infrastructure is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It risks misdiagnosing the problem, leading to wasted effort and resources on client-side fixes when the issue originates in the virtual environment. This can violate SLAs by prolonging downtime or degraded performance. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of due diligence in investigating the core service delivery platform, potentially leading to repeated incidents and a loss of user trust. Implementing broad, unvalidated changes to the guest operating system or applications without a clear understanding of the impact is also professionally unacceptable. Such actions can introduce instability, security vulnerabilities, or further performance issues, directly contravening the organization's duty to maintain a secure and reliable IT environment. This approach lacks a structured troubleshooting methodology and can lead to unintended consequences that are difficult to reverse, potentially impacting compliance with data integrity and availability requirements. Blindly updating all Horizon components without a specific identified need is a risky and inefficient strategy. While updates are important for security and feature enhancements, performing them without a clear diagnostic trigger can introduce new bugs or compatibility issues, exacerbating the performance problem or creating new ones. This approach bypasses the critical step of root cause analysis and can lead to service disruption, violating the organization's commitment to service continuity. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, evidence-based troubleshooting methodology. This involves 1. Defining the problem clearly and gathering initial symptoms. 2. Formulating hypotheses based on the symptoms in the system architecture. 3. Testing hypotheses systematically, starting with the most likely causes in the foundational layers of the infrastructure. 4. Isolating variables and making changes incrementally with clear rollback plans. 5. Documenting all findings, actions, and resolutions. This approach ensures efficient problem resolution, minimizes risk, and upholds professional responsibility to deliver reliable and secure IT services. Question 18. Which approach would be most effective in managing resource allocation for a VMware Horizon 8X environment experiencing significant daily and weekly fluctuations in user login patterns and application usage, while ensuring optimal performance and cost efficiency? Option A. Rely on manual intervention by administrators to adjust resource allocations only when user complaints about performance are received. Option B. Implement dynamic resource allocation policies that automatically adjust CPU, memory, and storage based on real-time demand and user activity. Option C. Configure static resource pools with fixed allocations for all users, ensuring sufficient resources are always available regardless of current usage. Option D. Prioritize the lowest possible resource allocation for all virtual desktops to minimize upfront infrastructure costs. The correct answer is B. Implement dynamic resource allocation policies that automatically adjust CPU, memory, and storage based on real-time demand and user activity. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure management, balancing performance, cost, and user experience when dealing with fluctuating resource demands. The professional challenge lies in selecting a resource allocation strategy that is both technically sound and compliant with the principles of efficient resource utilization, which indirectly relates to cost-effectiveness and service-level agreements, SLAs, that are often governed by contractual obligations and industry best practices. The specific jurisdiction for this exam, 2V0-510 Professional VMware Horizon 8X, implies adherence to VMware's recommended practices and general IT governance principles, rather than specific national regulations unless explicitly stated. The correct approach, focusing on dynamic resource allocation based on real-time demand, represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the fluctuating nature of virtual desktop usage. This method ensures that resources are provisioned when needed and deprovisioned when not, optimizing performance during peak times and minimizing waste during off-peak periods. This aligns with the principle of efficient resource management, which is a cornerstone of professional IT operations and is often a tacit requirement in service delivery. It avoids over-provisioning, which leads to unnecessary costs, and under-provisioning, which degrades user experience and can violate implicit or explicit SLAs. An incorrect approach that relies solely on static, pre-allocated resources for all users, regardless of actual usage, fails to adapt to dynamic demand. This leads to either over-provisioning, wasted resources and higher costs, or under-provisioning, poor performance and user dissatisfaction. Professionally, this demonstrates a lack of understanding of modern VDI resource management techniques and an inability to optimize the environment for efficiency. It can also lead to contractual breaches if performance SLAs are not met due to insufficient resources during peak times. Another incorrect approach, focusing on manual intervention for all resource adjustments, is highly inefficient and prone to human error. While it might seem like a way to control resources, it is not scalable and cannot react quickly enough to sudden spikes in demand. This approach is professionally deficient as it relies on reactive rather than proactive management and is not a sustainable operational model for a dynamic VDI environment. It also increases the risk of missing critical resource needs, leading to performance degradation and potential SLA violations. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing the lowest possible resource allocation for all users to minimize immediate costs, ignores the critical aspect of user experience and productivity. While cost savings are important, they should not come at the expense of a functional and responsive virtual desktop. This approach is professionally unsound because it fails to consider the impact on end users, which can lead to decreased productivity, increased support calls, and ultimately, a higher total cost of ownership due to lost productivity and user frustration. It also risks violating performance expectations, even if not explicitly defined as formal SLAs. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a thorough understanding of the VDI workload characteristics, user behavior patterns, and the capabilities of the Horizon 8X platform. It requires a proactive approach to resource management, leveraging automation and dynamic allocation where possible. Professionals should continuously monitor performance metrics, analyze trends, and adjust configurations to maintain an optimal balance between performance, cost, and user experience, always considering the potential impact on service delivery and user satisfaction. Question 19. The review process indicates that a new corporate security policy mandates stricter access controls for all virtual desktops, requiring multi-factor authentication, MFA, for all Horizon 8X sessions. The IT security team has provided the necessary MFA solution integration details. However, the Horizon 8X environment supports a diverse user base with varying technical proficiencies and critical business functions that rely on uninterrupted access. What is the most professional and secure approach to implementing this new MFA requirement? Option A. Defer the implementation of the MFA requirement until a more opportune time, citing potential user disruption and the need for further analysis of the impact on critical business functions. Option B. Implement the MFA requirement for all users simultaneously, leveraging the provided integration details to enforce the policy immediately across the entire Horizon 8X environment. Option C. Implement the MFA requirement for a randomly selected subset of users, without a formal pilot or phased rollout plan, to gauge initial user reaction. Option D. Conduct a pilot deployment of the MFA requirement to a representative group of users, gather feedback, and refine the configuration before a phased rollout to the broader user base. The correct answer is B. Implement the MFA requirement for all users simultaneously, leveraging the provided integration details to enforce the policy immediately across the entire Horizon 8X environment. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure management, ensuring consistent and secure user experiences while adhering to evolving security policies. A professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for user access with the imperative to implement robust security measures without disrupting critical business operations. This requires a nuanced understanding of Horizon 8X capabilities, security best practices, and the potential impact of configuration changes on the end-user environment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased, controlled rollout of security enhancements. By first testing the new security policy on a pilot group, administrators can validate its effectiveness, identify any unintended consequences, and gather feedback before a full deployment. This iterative process minimizes risk and ensures that the security posture is strengthened without compromising user productivity or system stability. This aligns with the principle of responsible system administration, which emphasizes thorough planning and risk mitigation. An incorrect approach that involves immediately enforcing the new security policy across all users without prior testing is professionally unacceptable. This would likely lead to widespread disruption, user complaints, and potential security vulnerabilities if the policy is not correctly implemented or if it conflicts with existing configurations. This approach demonstrates a failure to adequately assess risk and plan for change, potentially violating internal IT governance policies and user service level agreements. Another incorrect approach, which is to completely ignore the new security policy due to potential user impact, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a disregard for the organization's security directives and a failure to uphold the responsibility to protect company data and systems. This could expose the organization to significant security risks, leading to data breaches, compliance violations, and reputational damage. It also signals a lack of proactive security management. A third incorrect approach, which is to implement the security policy only on a subset of users without a clear rationale or testing plan, is also problematic. This creates an inconsistent security posture and can lead to confusion and support issues. Without a structured pilot or phased rollout, it becomes difficult to manage and troubleshoot, and the overall security benefit is diminished. This approach lacks the systematic rigor required for effective security management. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment, a clear understanding of the proposed change's impact, and a well-defined deployment strategy. This includes identifying stakeholders, defining success criteria, planning for rollback, and establishing communication channels. Professionals should always advocate for a controlled and tested approach to system changes, especially those impacting security and user access. Question 20. The analysis reveals that a new corporate security policy mandates enhanced monitoring of user activity within all virtual desktop environments to detect potential threats. This policy requires the implementation of specific logging and auditing features within the VMware Horizon 8 X infrastructure. However, the current environment is fully operational with no existing mechanisms for user notification regarding such monitoring, and a direct, immediate rollout to all production desktops is technically feasible, but carries a high risk of user disruption and potential data privacy concerns due to the lack of explicit consent for data collection. What is the most professionally responsible approach to implementing this new security policy? Option A. Immediately enable the enhanced logging and auditing features on all production Horizon 8 X desktops to ensure immediate compliance with the new corporate security policy. Option B. Implement the enhanced logging and auditing features only on a select group of non-critical virtual desktops to minimize immediate risk, deferring a broader rollout until further notice. Option C. Develop a phased rollout plan that includes a pilot deployment to a small, representative group of users, thorough testing, and clear communication to all affected users about the monitoring changes and the purpose of data collection. Option D. Begin collecting detailed user activity data immediately on all production desktops, assuming that the security benefit outweighs the need for explicit user consent for this type of monitoring. The correct answer is A. Immediately enable the enhanced logging and auditing features on all production Horizon 8 X desktops to ensure immediate compliance with the new corporate security policy. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in virtual desktop infrastructure management, ensuring consistent and secure user experiences while adhering to evolving security policies. The professional is tasked with implementing a new security requirement for Horizon 8 X environments without disrupting existing operations or compromising data integrity. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for enhanced security with the operational realities of a production environment, including user impact, resource availability, and the potential for unintended consequences. The absence of explicit user consent for data collection, even for security purposes, introduces a significant compliance risk. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a phased, controlled rollout of the security policy, starting with a pilot group and comprehensive testing. This aligns with best practices for change management in IT environments. Specifically, it addresses the regulatory and ethical imperative to minimize disruption and risk. By testing in a controlled environment, the professional can identify and mitigate potential issues before a full deployment, thereby protecting the integrity of the virtual desktop infrastructure and the data it hosts. Furthermore, proactively communicating with affected users about the changes, even if the data collected is anonymized or aggregated for security analysis, demonstrates transparency and respect for user privacy, which is often a component of data protection regulations. This approach ensures that the implementation is both technically sound and ethically responsible, minimizing the risk of regulatory noncompliance related to data handling and user impact. Incorrect approaches analysis. Implementing the security policy immediately across all production desktops without prior testing or user notification is a direct violation of responsible IT change management principles and potentially data protection regulations. This approach risks widespread service disruption, data loss, or corruption, and could lead to significant user dissatisfaction and a breach of trust. Ethically, it disregards the impact on end users and their ability to perform their work. Deploying the security policy only to a subset of users without a clear rationale or a plan for eventual full deployment creates an inconsistent security posture. This can lead to security vulnerabilities in the unpatched segments of the environment and may also violate principles of fairness and equitable treatment of users. From a regulatory standpoint, it could be argued that the organization is not providing a consistent level of security for all its data and users, potentially failing to meet certain compliance obligations. Collecting detailed user activity data without explicit consent, even for security analysis, is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. Many data protection frameworks require informed consent for the collection and processing of personal data, especially when it involves monitoring user behavior. This approach exposes the organization to legal penalties and reputational damage. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this domain must adopt a risk-based, phased approach to implementing changes. This involves thorough planning, impact assessment, rigorous testing in non-production environments, and clear communication with stakeholders, including end users. Decision-making should be guided by a framework that prioritizes security, operational stability, user experience, and regulatory compliance. When new security requirements arise, the process should involve 1. Understanding the exact nature of the security requirement and its implications. 2. Assessing potential risks and impacts on the existing infrastructure and user base. 3. Developing a detailed implementation plan, including rollback procedures. 4. Conducting pilot testing with a representative user group. 5. Communicating changes transparently to all affected users. 6. Monitoring the deployment closely and addressing any issues promptly. This systematic approach ensures that security enhancements are implemented effectively and responsibly, minimizing negative consequences.